so after my 5-week observership here, there's a period right before applying. You come for a 3 to 6 week visit called an observership. And at the end of that observership, I told Mother and my spiritual father that I didn't feel comfortable applying, because I knew that we were all called to holiness, and that I had so many relationships with men, that some of them were unholy, some of them were unhealthy, many of them were both, that I couldn't even picture a holy marriage for myself. And so I felt if I were applying to the monastery at that moment, it would be because I felt like it was the only way I could be holy.
Ooh, beautiful.
And I didn't want to enter the monastery and become a nun if I thought it was the only way that I could be holy. If it was the way that the Lord wanted me to be holy, if it was the way most conducive to me to become holy, then fine, but not if it's the only way I can be holy. So I needed to be able to envision a holy marriage for myself before I could take the next step. And so I didn't apply then. I left, and I didn't know what that meant, if it meant that I was going to need to date again or not or whatever, but I needed time. And then, yeah.
That's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. I have no doubt that many women watching this have that same sort of sentiment, that maybe they're addicted to pornography. Maybe they've been in several unchaste relationships. Maybe they've had abortions. And there's this temptation, or this perhaps legitimate fear that, well, the only reason I want to be a nun is so I can somehow whitewash that, because I'm damaged goods anyway, so I'm not sure what holy Catholic guy would want me. So if I become a nun, I'll at least appear holy, and people will look upon me as having accomplished something and being heroic. And what do you say to women who have those sorts of thoughts?
I would say there are many different thoughts stemming from those same lies, that the devil tries to use to dissuade us in pursuing whatever vocation. So first and foremost, we need to learn that our goodness is in our being, and the fact that we're made in the image and likeness of God. It's not, our goodness is not in what we've done. And in fact, if my goodness is based on what I've done, then I'm damned, because what I've done has been pretty horrible in my life. And so first of all, I would say that what you have done in your past, regarding sin, cannot be the reason for your pursuit of a particular vocation, because it's the same thing I was talking about before about becoming Byzantine, right? That we shouldn't be running away from anything. We should only be running to. But the devil will use these lies about us and about our lack of purity or anything like that. He will use this to no end. And it's the same, he'll use the same exact angle to convince someone to come to the monastery for the wrong reasons, for the habit to cover up their impurity. And then another woman who maybe has a genuine call to be a nun, he'll tell her, but you're too impure. You can't do that, you can't wear the habit like those other nuns because they're pure and you're not. Mm-hmm. And then he's telling this other girl, you should go to the monastery to wear a habit because it'll make you look pure even though you're not. And all of these are the same lie, used by him in different ways. And I experienced this very really, before I was tonsured.
Explain what that means for those who don't know.
Oh, sure. So tonsure literally means haircut, I think, or cut. But it's when the haircut that you get when you become a nun. And so that ceremony is called your tonsure. So it's when I received the habit and my new name. Mm-hmm. So the time leading up, which it's not the final commitment, right? That's life profession, but it still is a big step. And so the time leading up to it,
it's a big step because they've ruined your hair. It's going to take a big chunk of your hair out. You can leave if you want, but
There's actually, we call it at the monastery, sometimes so as you can see, our veil still leaves a little bit of hair out the front, and sometimes the bishop will cut a little too close. And so then a little tuft sticks out in the front. And so we call that at our monastery, we call that the tonsure tuft.
Very good. Sorry, continue.
Mine was always tucked in, but it's
Very
fine.
good. So
in the time leading up to my tonsure, Father Michael Lee, your spiritual father, he and I were talking, and it was maybe 6 months before my tonsure or something. And he says, I'm praying for you as you approach this time. Like, I know the devil's gonna throw everything at you. And I was like, Father Michael, I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Please.
So maybe I should blame this on him, but no, I love him. So before my tonsure, in that time, shortly after Father Michael talked to me, I had the sudden thoughts of like all of the reasons I shouldn't be tonsured, all of the reasons I shouldn't be a nun, and how I would make a horrible nun and I'll be unhappy. And even though you've had this joy, all this, the past time that you've been here, like it's going to go away. And you were so good at teaching, you should go back to teaching, all of these things. And I very quickly dismissed these as being from the devil. I was like, it was just very obvious. So then he just kind of turned around and came from a different angle. And once he realized that I wasn't going to give into that and that I was going to be tonsured anyways. Mm-hmm. And then he comes from the angle of, yeah, it's right that you're tonsured, because you should be a nun, because let's be honest, you're not pretty enough to get a boyfriend. And like, what are you going to do with your life at this point now that you've been in the monastery? And so it's like, he's very willing to change tactics.
Amen. Yeah.
And he's, if you're going towards the vocation that God is calling you to, and the devil can't steer you away from that, then he'll just try to make you do it for the wrong reasons, because like at least alter your motives to bring you further from God. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, what a minefield, huh? It's there's a lot going on. We often totally ignore the fact that we are engaged in a spiritual combat. And that's the reality in which we find ourselves. It's not this sort of, what would you call it, like a sort of peaceful life where our life just gradually unfolds. Like, we are in a world at war, and our life and our vocation and our discernment will not make sense apart from recognizing that.
Sure. But in the midst of it, we're asked to be in the eye of the storm where the calm is, and to rest there with Christ, and to experience it around us, and allow it to be around us, and to fight in the ways that we're asked to fight, but also to not lose our peace.
Yeah, amen.
Thank you for watching this clip. You can click here to watch the full episode. And I want to say a big thanks to our sponsors and to our amazing patrons for making all of this possible. Please do us a favor before you go. Click that subscribe button and then the bell. And that way YouTube will be forced to let you know every time we put out a new episode.